Good afternoon to everyone. We will be starting the webinar in a few minutes. I'm just waiting for one of the presenters to arrive, and then we will start in about 2 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon and welcome to the ITS Canada 2020 Supplier webinar series. Today is the 6th webinar in this series. My name is Janneke and I'm the Managing Director of ITS Canada. Today we are being joined by 4 ITS Canada members: PTV Group, Orange Traffic, Campbell Scientific Canada, and Cube Gridsmart, who each will share their new initiatives, products or services to aid the industry in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Each company will be given 10 minutes to present, which will be timed by me, followed by a 5-minute Q&A. And for those who have any questions, please use the question pane to submit your questions. And after each presentation, I will share your question with the panel. Our first presenter today is Adam Groves. Adam is the manager of real-time systems and the regional manager for the Eastern United States and Canada for PTV America. He has spent the last 5 years working in the transportation planning and ITS industry with PTV Group and previously with Global Traffic Technologies. He has a decade of experience in deploying smart, integrated infrastructure technology to healthcare, public safety, public transportation, and government clients. I am now going to make Adam the presenter. Adam.
All right, thank you very much. Can you see my screen okay? Oh, I'm on the wrong.
I can, but I can see your next slide, your slide note. So you probably want to change the display setting on your screen. Looks like you're using 2 monitors.
Let's see.
So if you can go to display settings on the top of your screen.
I think that should do it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. All right, sorry about that. And thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to everyone on the line for joining. I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to share some of our experiences and our ideas, as well as some of those of our customers in the midst of what is this unprecedented disruption to both our everyday lives, as well as to the transportation industry as a whole. And I think while you can't argue that this situation is certainly unique for its scale, the speed at which we had to react, and the serious and potentially deadly consequences if we did not do things correctly, I think it serves to highlight the overall trend that we see in the transportation industry, that we're being increasingly asked to adapt to new modes of transportation, new technologies, and shifts in how people travel at an increasingly rapid rate. So I think this is where, for myself and my colleagues at PTV, we are very passionate that the technology that we bring to our clients can help them to better understand the mobility system, test new solutions, and adapt to a changing landscape to ensure that people and goods can be transported in a way that is smart, sustainable, and safe. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. The overall trend we've seen in the midst of all of this is that people have a need to quickly reconfigure and adapt their existing spaces and infrastructure due to COVID-19. Some of the reasons that we've seen that people want to do this is that they want to enable safe and healthy travel when necessary, provide access to critical healthcare or to critical testing needs, to deliver critical goods, and to provide safe exercise and recreational opportunities to the public. And some of the things that we've seen that people would like to either repurpose or organize better are things like the road and sidewalk network, their public transit vehicles, ITS systems, buildings, and parking facilities. So the first example I'm going to jump in and show you is a relatively simple one. And this has to deal with how we travel along sidewalks. On the left, you'll see people using a sidewalk as they traditionally would, walking in both directions. And as people come within a 2-meter bubble of each other, you're going to begin to see them to turn around. And on the right is a test on what if we only allow people to travel on one side of the sidewalk, and they made sure to space themselves so they wouldn't overtake. So this is an easy example of how we can, just by enacting a new policy, we can enable better social distancing. So this is also a great example of just a way that you can quickly put together something and test an idea that you have, and then go on to further tests if it proves to be a good idea. So as we see on the right, it seems people are maintaining better spacing, so you may want to go on to evaluate the effects on accessibility, the effects on travel times, maybe even things like, are my pedestrian signals timed to make this work appropriately? The next example is similar, but it shows how you reconfigure flows within a building to make sure that people can safely access facilities that provide things like groceries, healthcare, critical government services, and public transportation, and they can access these things in a safe manner. So from this, you can test different things and evaluate things like how big of a queuing space am I going to need, or how long is my line going to be. You can also let people know, how long waits are going to be, what kind of staffing needs you need. So it's, again, just a quick way within a building to provide to test different scenarios. The next example was put together by my colleagues on the technical team, John Stallone and Betsy LaRue, for a recent webinar that's available online if you want some additional details. This simply demonstrates how you can turn an existing space, in this case a park and ride facility, into a mobile testing site. You can see as vehicles come in, they're assigned either cleared or asked to go to wait, and then on to additional testing. And this allows you to see things like how many people or how many tests can be provided at a given location within an hour. Also, how long are waits going to be? How long are queues? Are queues going to spill out onto the nearby roadways? And again, this is something, once it's identified as a viable testing location, you can then go on to do further analysis, like how many people live within a 15-minute drive of this testing facility. One more example that we provided was a overall traffic map for all of Germany. To see how traffic overall was impacted by COVID-19 travel restrictions. This also went on, is available online, and also has some things like looking at travel over the Easter holiday and see how well travel restrictions were observed. So this kind of goes on to highlight that these impacts can also be viewed on a citywide, on a regional-wide, or a national level. So all 4 of these things are just kind of simple examples where when you have an idea, you can jump in, quickly test it, and decide which of those scenarios deserve to be explored further and what additional impacts would they have. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the need to adapt to changing mobility landscape has been a topic for quite a while, but it's certainly been accelerated by this COVID situation. One of the things that we've heard from our customers here in North America, but also around the world, has been the need to have a system in place that allows you to quickly evaluate changes in test scenarios and discover what the impacts will be. And those impacts can be a little bit different depending on what point of perspective you're looking at, whether that's the perspective of a regional planner, on a detailed operational perspective, like a traffic engineer may look at it, or on the point of view of a public transit agency and a freight delivery company. So by having a set of tools that can readily transfer data back and forth and evaluate scenarios from the perspective of multiple stakeholders, you're going to be in a good position to quickly identify problems, come up with solutions, and work together to implement solutions in a timely manner. We definitely see a trend with people moving away from doing these types of analysis on a project-by-project basis and working more towards having models in place that can bring all of your mobility data together into one place that can be updated continually and utilized on an ongoing basis to plan and adapt as the situation changes. This can be further extended towards our suite of real-time products that allow you to take in those same types of data in real-time information in real time, provide predictions, test scenarios, and adapt to the current conditions and provide routing guidance out to the public. I think like one thing that this whole situation might remind us of is the range of variability that might be experienced in everyday traffic might be quite a bit greater than we thought was possible. Obviously with COVID, traffic has dipped quite a bit below what it normally would, but in the future, other scenarios might arise where traffic would be greatly increased, for example, an evacuation scenario. So as I'm getting a little bit on to my time here, I just wanted to pass along a couple final thoughts. The first thing is from myself and the rest of the team at PTV. We would encourage you to reach out. We've helped a lot of people and a lot of our customers in transitioning from working at the office to working at home full time and making sure they can access their products and work effectively. So please feel free to reach out if you're having issues, or if you're having issues in, problems that arise that you need to test and you're not sure how to do it. We definitely, our whole team is standing by to help make that successful for you. And on a broader note, just as kind of a silver lining, I think we can all kind of find a silver lining here. And I think as we've ventured out to these kinds of essential activities over the last months, we've seen streets that are quite a bit less congested. In many cases, they're safer, and we've experienced that the air is cleaner. And I think that we can be inspired by the fact that those are all goals which people in the transportation industry have been working towards for a long time. And maybe those goals aren't quite so far away as we had thought. So I think we should all take this as inspiration, and that we can work together, and if we all make the right choices, both personally and in professional lives, we can help achieve those goals together. And I'm very happy to be part of an organization that, like PTV, that shares those goals and works to bring software to our clients that helps achieve those goals as well. So with that, I think we can go ahead and take questions.
Thank you very much, Adam, for that presentation. And you have actually 1 minute left, so thank you for that. I got a couple of questions. I think you started off your presentation on the slide with to reconfigure quickly, that we have to be adaptable more than ever before. And it is that this pandemic has caused more flexibility, that cities, municipalities, all of us, we have to be more adaptable to change. Do you think that in the future there will be, as a result of the adaptability of all of us, we see more of a collaboration between public and private sector and sharing of data that might not necessarily have been there before?
Yeah, we definitely see that. And, the other part of kind of PTV's business, for example, is on the logistics side and providing, optimizing logistics solutions. So that's one area where we've certainly seen, a need to increase cooperation between the public and private sector to enable, freight to move effectively, especially during times like this when it's, freight traffic, we have some very important freight traffic and an increase in people ordering things online rather than shopping locally. But also I think that extends as well when you talk about, the kind of TNC revolution and the scooter revolutions that have happened very rapidly in the past. And that's a lesson learned from that for sure is, in a lot of cases, the data wasn't there available to the public agencies so they can make better decisions about those types of things.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity, but the city of Toronto has, because of COVID-19, initiated, there's a couple of, it's called Active TO, where they've turned streets into, reconfigured streets into sidewalks and bicycle paths, for example. So it's interesting to see, to meet the demands of the public to bike and walk safely, but also to have maybe a change in the delivery of the goods with respect to the curb. The other question I have is on the slide that you show on the traffic impact slide at a national scale. To what detail can you go and provide those traffic impacts? Does it include all modes of transportation? Yes.
I think in this particular case, it was done strictly with vehicular travel. One of the great things, that has happened in transportation recently is we have access through a lot of these providers to a lot more information. So this is something that definitely be applied if you have the data to look at that as well. I'm sure transit agencies are looking for that kind of information as well. So in this case, we work with a partner in Germany, but locally we can work with a lot of the data providers to also bring in that type of multimodal information for sure as well.
Good. Thank you. Those are the questions that I have. So I'll make myself the presenter again. And thank you, Adam.
Yes, thank you very much.
Next up is Catherine Fugère. Catherine Fugère is the marketing coordinator for Orange Traffic, and she's been working at Orange Traffic since 2015, where she started in the manufacturing department. While taking care of all the trade shows pre-COVID-19, she's also responsible now for all communications with Orange Traffic customers through webinars, newsletters, website, and more to keep them informed about their solutions. Orange Traffic's goal is to optimize fluidity and safety on the road in an innovative way. The company is specialized in designing, manufacturing, and distributing an array of high-quality ISO 9001 and CSA certified products for the traffic signage and signal industry. They're specialized in LED signs, manufactured at their offices in Mirabel, Quebec. Catherine holds a bachelor's degree in international business from Concordia University and is currently pursuing her master's degree in entrepreneurial studies at the HEC in Montreal. And with that, I am going to make Catherine the presenter. Catherine.
Thank you, Janaki. Thank you for that. So here is the presentation. So thank you, Janaki. I'm super happy to represent Orange Traffic today to talk about how we are adjusting to our new reality post-COVID-19. So some of you might still be thinking, well, what new reality? Well, we now know that we have to facilitate working from home for everyone. We have to limit our technician travels on the roads. There's also a big economic impact. Just a few weeks ago, City of Montreal reported millions of dollars in losses from the decrease of usage of public transit. And we also have to make our cities smarter for optimal recovery. So how can Orange Traffic help? Well, today I'm going to present to you 3 solutions. First, connecting your traffic cabinets. Second, connecting your school zones. These 2 solutions will be used using one of Orange Traffic's partner applied information. And the third solution is understanding citizens' behavior using counting studies. So first, connecting traffic cabinets. So the question is, how can we limit our travels and be able to work from home? The short answer would be, well, be connected. Connecting your traffic cabinets have huge impacts. First, your technicians will be able to limit their travels because they will have the information in real time from their smartphone, tablet, laptop, wherever they are, You can facilitate communication between your team members because they will all have access to the same data, and you will make your cities smarter and more effective. So what can Orange Traffic offer you? Well, we can offer you a complete system to access your cabinets from anywhere at any time. So I'm going to present to you one of Orange Traffic's partner, Applied Information. They were founded in 2011, and their HQ are in Atlanta, Georgia, but they also have development offices both in South Africa and in India. Together, they have the team has over 100 years of experience in the transportation industry. So how can you limit travel and work from home using Applied Information? Well, you can wirelessly monitor and maintain your controller. You can stream live video from remotely. Just you can see here on the right, that's the app using a tablet. So you can see all the intersections that are connected. And if you click on one, you see the complete status of it. You can remotely cycle power. You can receive instant alerts when one intersection is not functioning properly. It's easy to install and it eliminates unnecessary maintenance trips. So what can we monitor? Well, we can monitor AC voltage, preemption status, time synchronization, battery, signal, door, and fan status, as well as temperature and humidity. So here on the right, you can see the system on a laptop. And here, this small hardware is what has to be installed in the cabinet to create the cellular connection to Glance. So pass-through communication. At Orange Traffic, we distribute PEAK or ORIX controllers, and you can wirelessly monitor and control your traffic signal controllers, utilizing high-speed LTE connection speed comparable with fiber. It supports all major traffic signal controllers, as well as cities VPN. So how does it truly work? Well, the traffic controller status is sent directly to the cabinet unit, which is connected with a cloud access by cellular, which sends the real-time information to your central ATMS, which in this case here is the Glance system. So finally, for the solution, you can see that it is super user-friendly and very accessible for all your team. So next is connecting your school zones. So keeping our kids safe is a priority. So slowly, provinces by provinces are starting to get kids back to school. And in September, most probably they will all be going back to school. And we also know that pedestrians are the most vulnerable users of the road. We have to increase awareness of drivers to make them safer. We are so distracted now with the cyclists on the road, the trucks, the motorists, our cars that are getting smarter, our smartphones. So at Orange Traffic, we want to make sure the pedestrians are visible. To do so, we have developed a variable speed limit LED sign, which gives you the opportunity to lower the speed limit when there are kids around, and then put it back to the normal speed to increase fluidity. And you can also connect the solutions using Glance so that you can schedule or modify the speed limit from the comfort of your home. You can limit technician travels because they will be informed about the status of your products online. So here on the right is an example of some installations made in Jacksonville. So you can see all the little school zones. And if you click on one, you can see the status of the installation. So again, you can wirelessly monitor and control your flashing beacon or LED signs. You can remotely change the schedules. You can receive alerts when an installation is not working properly. It's super easy to install, and you can monitor AC voltage, solar, and battery backups. So what does it include? Well, the system includes the cellular modem, the data plan, the Glance software, and a complete warranty. It also easily retrofits into existing beacon or LED sign hardware. It reduces downtime and improves response times. So our last solution is understanding new behaviors post-COVID-19. So first, what is a counting study? A counting study gives you the data that you need to get recommendations from professionals. So if you want to know how many trucks there are, how many pedestrians, cyclists, how many right turns there are, how many left turns, to really understand how people are traveling in your area. Post-COVID-19, traffic will change and we need to understand how. You need to understand what is happening in your area because it could really vary from one place to another. So then you can get real recommendations from professionals after collecting data in your area. And then it will be easier for you to answer this important question. How can we optimize fluidity while keeping our citizens as safe as possible? So thank you so much. That was my presentation, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Wow, our presenters today are staying really within the 10-minute time limit given. So the two examples that you gave about the two companies you partnered with, AI, and I think it's called Glance, have some of these initiatives already been implemented?
Yes, they have implemented a lot throughout the US, but we have right now a big project in Quebec City where they are prioritizing 500 units, and they are prioritizing, public transit and emergency vehicles at the intersection. And because they have this priority system, well, they can also monitor the traffic cabinets with the system.
And does it mean that both the public transit agency and the emergency vehicle are both dispatchers able to speak to each other, or is that controlled done through a TMC?
No, it's separate systems.
Separate systems.
Because you don't want to prioritize the emergency vehicle the same way you want to prioritize the public transit.
No. Okay. The other question I have is, what are some of the safety provisions that you have in place for your technicians in case they have to go out and deal with an issue at a traffic cabinet? What are some of the things that you have put in place from a safety perspective, dealing during COVID-19?
Well, yes, when it comes to safety, well, as the government has recommended, they have the mask, they have the disinfectant, and so on and so forth. But also, luckily, they're more often than not, they are alone at the intersection, so they are not really in contact with the customer or the city. They will most probably call them, and they have to intervene alone at the intersection. So there's not so much problem with social distancing.
Thank you. And with the fact that that schools are not, at least in Ontario, sounds like they're not going back until September. I know that in Quebec, in some areas in the Quebec province, schools have come back. Have you seen an increased need for that counting traffic that you talked about at the end of your presentation?
Yes, we have, and we have developed this solution pre-COVID-19, but I've really worked on it because we had a lot of customers who were wondering what's going to happen with traffic, how are we going to adapt? So yes, we have many requests.
Good.
Sorry.
Good, thank you so very much, Catherine. Those were all the questions that I have. Thank you. And after today's presentation, we will put the webinar recording on the website. And if you've got any questions for any of the presenters, their contact information will be available on the ITS Canada website as well. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
Next up is DJ. DJ Snodgrass is a senior technical sales consultant at Campbell Scientific Canada, CSC, who specializes in surface transportation solutions. DJ joined CSC in 2006 and became known as the expert in transportation solutions. DJ has a long record of successfully guiding clients find the transportation solutions that best fit their needs. And now it's over to DJ. DJ.
Thank you very much. Just make sure everybody can see the right screen here.
Yes.
All right. So thank you everybody for joining us for the webinar this morning, this afternoon in some places, I guess. Yeah, we've been able to kind of keep going with business and recognize the changes that have happened. And I just want to roll through here, I guess. So Campbell Scientific, being one of the most recognized names in the world for environmental measurement and monitoring, been doing business in Canada since the late 1970s. Most known for hardware that is rugged, reliable, and works anywhere in the planet. And beyond, I guess, with one of our loggers being utilized on the Space Shuttle Endeavour mission. One of our biggest clients, Environment Canada, is one of our biggest clients. We're not, however, kind of well known, I guess, for kind of integrating and service providing, which is something we do a fair amount of, actually. And Campbell Scientific provides services to Canadian Armed Forces, Environment Canada, and various provincial transportation agencies, notably Alberta, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. Let's see here. So some of the things Campbell does do, we do have manufacturing and production facilities worldwide. We provide systems integration, testing, repair, and calibration. Training services as well, both on-site at your location and ours. We do have a full field service team as well here in Canada, which I'll touch on a little bit later, and some decision support services. Over here, sorry. So some of the impacts we've definitely seen during COVID-19 on the transportation networks, like others have mentioned, less traffic is obvious. That's being seen. And as an example, it was released recently that the city of Edmonton in particular has seen up to a 50% reduction in traffic on its roadways. And one of the things that's meant for Campbell Scientific is a reduction in traffic means a safer work environment for our field staff working in those roadways, which also makes it a little bit more efficient, just having less traffic around. And to further that, with the city of Edmonton, a report came out recently. They were able to fill 4,000 more potholes this year over last already, and they do attribute that to the reduced traffic. So I guess some of the good things that are coming out of everybody being home is we can be more efficient and get things done, and then hopefully we're ready for when everything starts to trickle back as we're seeing now. As we know, safe roads are critical for transportation of essential goods. Part of these safe roads is the utilization of road weather information systems. So this was pretty critical in the first month or two of COVID lockdowns. You know, we had lots of transportation of essential goods. I've even known of a number of companies who switched from transporting dangerous goods, for instance, to transporting, you know, groceries and that sort of thing to be able to get those essential goods out to the public. You know, things like wind corridors and night icing and potential snows, even into the end of April, were definitely things we had to worry about. New Brunswick had seen 30 centimeters of snow in April this year, in northern parts. So maintaining those RWA systems was pretty critical. So as I mentioned, you know, equipment requires maintenance regardless in order to keep this transportation infrastructure moving. And due to this, Campbell was deemed an essential service because in provinces like Nova Scotia, of course, they've closed their borders, even New Brunswick. So our technicians weren't able to cross into those provinces. So on March 27th, we were deemed essential service provider, which allowed us to cross borders and do the maintenance that needed to be done on systems to ensure that we were properly maintaining roads. for those transportation of goods. It's kind of some of our role. We continue to supply, operate, and maintain hundreds of stations within Canada. You know, over the last 20 years or so, we've been doing that work to various municipal and provincial entities to ensure the supply of goods to our clients, requiring them for critical applications. A very dedicated crew at our office in production, repair, shipping, receiving, as well as our inventory staff were maintained on site at our facility, working shifts to maintain distancing. And this ensured our clients were able to be provided with the customer service they always expect from Campbell. Because of the nature of our work as well and the infrastructure we already had in place, because we have remote technicians and remote staff, we're lucky as an organization to be able to close down operations one Friday and then completely open up to operations again on Monday with 70+ staff working from home within 3 days. So that was quite a feat. Campbell also has the responsibility, of course, of ensuring that field equipment is functioning and correctly and accurately. CSC was proud to provide these maintenance services while adhering to those social distancing guidelines. This did, however, require quite an adaptation by our staff. And as an example, field technician site visits in some cases require 2 field staff. That allowed us to, or required us now to send out 2 vehicles so they weren't in the same vehicles. They had to distance from one another while on the job site if they were on the same job site. And masks were worn if need be. One of the other things that was really an eye-opener was, you know, hotels weren't open or were at severely reduced capacity, so it made it very hard for any distance travel for our staff. So just an idea of some of the places we work in these days. Basically most of the country. We also have a lot of the maritime work. New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, maintaining systems there as well. Along with this list, we do also a fair amount of work in the US and also across the globe. So notably, we have staff working in Maine, Alaska, Utah, Department of Transportation, and others. Some other solutions that are out there that are being used to provide safe transport of goods is using ARWIS data to provide real-time warnings to the public, of course. And so as an example, in southern Alberta, there is a wind corridor along Highway 22, which uses some simple static beacon signs as well as some dynamic message signs indicating wind speeds within that corridor. It seems to be quite a traveled route for semis and things like that. And so with the high winds, there's a lot of rollovers that occur. This corridor with this system in place has reduced those rollovers by 90%. Some of the other things we've noticed when we're talking about digital messaging is during the pandemic, I've seen some agencies cancel or delay projects. In other areas, what we've seen is actually funding being diverted to assist the response. And by that, I mean diverting funding to things like purchase of mobile dynamic message signs to provide updates or information to public crossing into borders and that sort of thing. So we have seen a lot of shift in where funding is being applied in this time. Something we can do as well to just facilitate, helping with that social distancing and whatnot, is one, our open architecture with our equipment. We can add things like, say, water level to your ARWIS systems that are near streams and rivers. So, or cameras even, so that people don't have to necessarily leave the office to look at high flow events or high water level events, keeping them out of the public. Making use of remote communications as well as our cloud platform, Campbell Cloud. Users are able to monitor their equipment remotely. Like I said, keeping themselves and others out of harm's way during these unprecedented times we find ourselves in, but still providing critical updates to all stakeholders, both internal and public. And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And also almost a minute left. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the question pane here. Technology, let me go see. I have a question. You talked about environmental intelligence in one of your slides, or it was mentioned. Can you talk to me a little bit more about environmental? Is RWIS, would that fall under environmental intelligence or the data that you gather? And
yeah, it's more data. Go ahead.
And then my second part is, what have you seen with respect to, have you seen any changes in environmental intelligence received pre and pre-COVID and what you see right now?
I'm not sure we've seen a lot of change in what we're doing for it, but the environmental intelligence portion that I speak of is what we've been working on a lot is more road weather driven. And when we talk about it, it's not the RWIS itself, but more the data we gather from it and whether we can more better utilize the data, or can we use a subset of data actually that we normally would use, reducing costs, so that we can provide the same intelligence we used to, you know, things like icing potential and things like that. You know, do we need a full RWIS system for that? So we've been able to develop a few algorithms and things within Campbell Cloud to provide that intelligence using a smaller subset of data, which then provides a smaller platform on the side of the road, which requires less infrastructure, no power, that kind of thing, which in turn, I guess, provides more funding to other applications or initiatives within municipalities and things to be able to move forward. So that's the kind of environmental intelligence that we're providing to date.
Thank you. And we've heard now in all presentations until so far the need for adaptability more than ever before. So what are some of the long-term implications to the adaptability that you had to undergo? Are there any long-term implications for that? Any maintenance of some of those changes? Will they stay in place because there's lessons learned? I was wondering if you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us are learning the same lessons, and because our technicians, you know, we work countrywide. You know, a lot of these changes have yet to be seen in the adaptations that we need to do because of the air travel restrictions in place. But certainly, you know, even just today on the roads with our technicians doing maintenance, like I mentioned, you know, 2 vehicles when we need 2 people, sharing of vehicles doesn't really happen anymore unless you sanitize the vehicles. So there are processes now that are going to be in place just within the workplace, just to keep us and our technicians safe. So I can definitely see long term some of these processes remaining for the long term. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you. So those were the questions that I had. Thank you very much, DJ.
No problem.
Next up is Nelson. Nelson Melendez is currently the Solutions Manager Canada for Cubic Gridsmart. Cubic Gridsmart is increasing its presence in Canada in order to better serve and support Canadian customers. Nelson has 23 years of municipal experience in ATMS ITS design, operation and maintenance. Nelson is a graduate of the Transportation Engineering Technology program at Mohawk College. He has successfully led the design, implementation, and maintenance of numerous ITS projects. These ITS projects used smart components such as video detection sensors, radar sensors, VMS, ATC signal controllers, portable ATC controller firmware, AVL equipment, VT sensors, RWIS sensors, crowdsourced travel, time data, and responsive adaptive control software. Nelson has also been involved in smart city building initiatives, such as the creation of CV and AV on-street test tracks aimed at testing the V2I and V2X connected vehicle applications. Most recently, Nelson was involved in the development of ITS policy and ITS strategy for FDOT while working for HNTB in Tallahassee, Florida. And also Nelson was, and his team at the time, the City of Hamilton, was a recipient of the ITS Canada Award in I'm not sure if it was 2016. Nelson?
Yes, it was.
Okay, there you go. Over to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Janica. Thank you everyone for your time and for your interest in this presentation. I'm just going to talk about a little bit about what Cubic Gridsmart is doing to deal with the pandemic and some of the things that we do that kind of fit well with the new normal. So let's launch our presentation here. Our vision at Gridsmart is to improve 1 billion lives through intelligence. And that statement takes on a whole new meaning now that we're trying to use technology to keep people safe and healthy. So it's kind of fitting that we have that vision statement. Let's tell you a little bit about the system and what we make and what makes us unique. The Gridsmart system, Gridsmart pioneered the first single camera solution for actuation, traffic data collection, and situational awareness. We done our time in the field, so we recorded a lot of video and analyzed a lot of video, which has resulted in a very robust and accurate detection algorithm. We also are unique in the sense that we track vehicles from horizon to horizon and through the middle of the intersection. And basically, we track any object that enters the field of view. Obviously, we're focused on vehicles and bicycles, but we can track any object and create a 3D model around the object and track it through the intersection. Another thing that makes us unique and something that I've been leveraging during the pandemic and the lockdowns is our software modules. So we're unique in a sense that when we sell a software module, it's a perpetual license that lives with the video processor for the life of that processor. And the clients also own the data, so the data is sitting there on the processor and it's accessible at any time. Basically, onboard storage allows for the storage of a couple of years worth of data. But if you have a network connection, you can pull the data remotely, or you can collect the data on an external hard drive. The other thing that we do is that we can sync some of this data to the cloud, and even if a customer doesn't have a software license, the data is being stored for later use, which I think can come in handy during COVID-19, as customers may be interested in seeing what happened during the lockdown, before or after the lockdown, and they didn't have the license before, but after they realize they want to see the data, and they can activate the license at a later date. So how are we dealing with COVID-19? We've been, as part of our larger family, which is Cubic, we've been grounded and not travel restrictions have been in place, so we haven't been able to visit our customers or reach our customers as usual. But we've been doubling up our efforts in terms of remote support, and we're leveraging some of the data that's sitting in the processors and the ability that we have to connect to those processors in the field, so we can monitor customer systems, advise customers of any alarms that we may notice, or also make recommendations to make improvements to the programming of the system, or also review data and let people know what we're seeing in the data that's coming through the systems. One thing that we're all recognizing is that we're going to have to do a better job of servicing cyclists and pedestrians. And in that sense, we were a little bit ahead of the game. We had released a solution for cyclist extensions a while back. We call it the bicycle box, and basically it allows it gives us the ability to extend greens for vulnerable road users, like for cyclists. And but we also have an option for pedestrian zones, and pedestrian zones also do the same thing. We can extend the greens. I think this feature will come in could be a powerful tool in the age of COVID-19, where we may be trying to extend the greens and more efficiently push the pedestrians out of the intersection, so we don't get pedestrians being gathering at the corners. So I think this tool, when matched with the right controller option, it could be a powerful tool to try to keep pedestrians moving, keep social distancing, and not keep too many pedestrians at the corners. So we figured that this was something that should not come out at a premium. So our leadership made a decision to bundle up these features, both the bicycle box and the pedestrian zones, with our base offering, with our base plan. So we didn't want customers to pay premium for these safety features. So that's one of the changes we have made recently. We now have these two functions built into our base module. Another thing that we have introduced is Purdue coordination diagrams, and that is done by collecting data into the cloud. The systems, all our video processors will report to the cloud and send information up to the cloud once a day. And this data lives there and it's constantly being collected. While I'm talking about this, I'd just like to remind any Canadian customers that are listening that, in order for you to have this option, you need to install the antenna and enable the modems that come with our systems. There's no cost for this feature. You just gotta enable the modem and install the antenna, and then it gives us a much better ability to service our customers and monitor systems. So that's how this is done. The Purdue coordination diagram. Once you have a modem enabled and an antenna, we keep punching that information over to the cloud and building these diagrams or gathering this data in the cloud, so customers can have access to these diagrams. And we see great potential for this data in terms of determining, before and after traffic trends, what happened before lockdown, during lockdown, and knock on wood, who knows, we may experience future lockdowns as we're hearing of possible second waves of the virus. And this, the ability to go back in time and see what we did or how we did the first time around may help traffic engineers develop emergency signal timing plans in any future emergencies. So here we're looking at one of the things that we've been doing during lockdown. We've been watching our customer systems. We've been monitoring their data. I've been looking at data that's being gathered by our systems and trying to just document some of this information. And if we're noticing anything that's significantly alarming, then we let our customers know right away. But then for the most part, what we're seeing is lower traffic volumes, and I think what the lessons that may be learned down the road is that during lockdown, the green time was not being utilized as effectively. But so on this diagram these two diagrams that we're looking at, the one on the left is before lockdown, the one on the right is after. You see a noticeable difference. The scatter plot is diagrams a lot more scattered, and obviously green time is being utilized as effectively as before. And I think this might be information that could be used down the road by traffic engineers to figure out how to deal with a reoccurring event. And I think there may be some need to optimize some of those timings to reduce the time that pedestrians spend waiting at the corner in order to support social distancing and limit pedestrian exposure to other pedestrians. Another thing that we've been doing we do data backups, and so this is also in line with the whole concept of a customer realizing down the road that they want to maybe get some data before lockdown and after lockdown. If we sync this information to the cloud, the data is backed up even if the customer doesn't have a license. So this sort of fits in good in this age of the COVID-19, I think, because customers may be able to go back in time and activate those licenses to see what happened before and after. Another thing that we've done is we're now able to update the firmware on our processors remotely, we talked to some of our previous presenters have talked about limiting the number of people that can work together and only one person per vehicle. Same thing, we're seeing the same thing with all our customers and their signal crews. In many cases, they cannot be in front of the cabinet at the same time, no more than one person. So this feature allows us to remotely update the firmware on the processor. So, like for example, a technologist at the traffic management center can send the update, and we can have a single technician in the field just making sure that the processor is operating as suspected after the update. So that's another option that we feel is gonna fit well with social distancing in the new age of COVID-19. Another thing that we've done is we separated our licenses. We have a streams license now, a video streams license that allows customers to take advantage of field hardware that they have, cameras that they have in the field, even if they don't need the performance, the traffic data, which will be in our performance and performance plus licenses. But they can still get video streams, which can allow customers to access their cameras and get some video feeds to monitor pedestrian traffic, for example. Like Yannick was talking about this active TO initiative. Now, cameras could be used to monitor whether or not pedestrian traffic is flowing well and social distancing is being obeyed. So depending on the level of access we have to our customers' systems, also been watching their systems on the cloud and trying to anticipate problems or pass on problems to them. So when we notice something is happening. So I'll show you quickly some of the things that we've been able to do. I'm logged into the.
Nelson, you've got 1 minute left. Okay.
Oh, okay. So we're just looking at a very remote system in Ontario, in Deep River, Ontario. Through the cloud system, I'm able to see that the camera connectivity has been 100% in the last 30 days. I'm able to download configuration files and events. And we just another example, we can see the camera streaming, and we actually notified this customer of this camera being a little dirty. So that's the kind of stuff that we've been doing. We're watching and trying to support our customers with a remote support capability, and that's and our support group has been doubling up their efforts to support our customers in this very unique time. And I'll end it at that since we're almost done with my time.
Thank you. And Nelson's contact information will be available on the ITS Canada website, where we post all our webinar recordings. Thank you, Nelson.
No problem.
I've got a couple of questions for you. The image that you show for the 360 camera, those cameras, are they subject to good and bad weather, or will they function in all sorts of climates, or all seasons, I guess I should say?
Yeah, no, our cameras have been tested in all different weather scenarios and seasons. One of the things that makes the product very resilient when it comes to dealing with different weather conditions is that we are pointing down. We look down. So a linear camera that looks at the intersection, and it's usually affected by fog in a pretty big way when you get heavy fog. But our cameras deal with both fog and snow very well because of the downward facing of the lens. And we also have all sorts of things. We have heaters onboard heaters that deal with any building snow or ice. So as a customer, I dealt with all sorts of. I used to be a customer, and I used to use this product, and I saw this stuff go through this equipment go through all sorts of fairly nasty weather. But as a member of Gridsmart, I can also attest that we do a lot of testing. we make sure that this equipment can work in any weather conditions.
Good, thank you. The other question I have is about the cyclist box. You also talked about pedestrians and vulnerable road users. Now, pedestrians are not the only vulnerable road users that we talk about, also people in wheelchairs and visually impaired individuals.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I think when I think about a pedestrian, I think of myself. I have my vision and I have my hearing, but I also think that people who cannot hear or people who cannot see are people who are sitting in a wheelchair and they're not as fast as a person like me, for example. So can you elaborate on that?
Definitely. So as in terms of our pedestrian detection zones are able to identify pedestrians and extend the green, and it's looking for a general shape that we a 3D model that the system is looking for. Now I'm not gonna make any statements on the wheelchair because honestly I'm just gonna be honest, I haven't got that question before, and I'm not sure how we deal with wheelchairs, but I'm almost certain that we would pick up the wheelchair just as we pick up a pedestrian. But to be absolutely certain, I will look into that and I will get back to you, Janica. But in terms of pedestrians with disabilities, somebody with visually impaired, the camera will still recognize the general shape of a pedestrian and extend the green. The only one where I cannot be 100% is on the wheelchair. I can tell you that I haven't seen the video detection algorithm at work. I know that we're able to pick up just about anything. We pick up strollers. Sometimes you can see a person, a stroller, and a dog, and you're able to pick up all three different objects independently. But in terms of the function within the pedestrian zone, I will have to get confirmation from our software and engineering team on how we deal with wheelchairs. But I'm almost certain that it would be picked up just as we would pick up a pedestrian. And a visually impaired pedestrian, then that would be no different than picking up a regular pedestrian. So that those pedestrian zones will be looking for that general shape and provide a green extension when the pedestrian enters the zone.
Thank you very much. I look forward to hear back from you. There is no other questions, so thank you, Nelson.
Not a problem. Thank you.
So with that, we are finishing today's webinar. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Nelson. And thank you, audience. Our next webinar is May 26, 2020, next week, Tuesday. Just wanted to remind everybody on the ITS Canada Awards virtual celebration on Monday, June 15th. And the webinar recording will be either available today or tomorrow on the ITS Canada website. And for those who have joined us from the United States, I wish you a enjoyable long weekend coming up next week, Monday, with Memorial Day. Thank you to all.